Well, who would have thought 6 months ago at IPBC Global in Barcelona that some of the biggest uncertainties came through in the intervening 6 months? As we're here at IPBC Asia in Shanghai, of course, we've seen the United Kingdom vote for Brexit, and Donald Trump is the president-elect in the United States. Linda Biel, would you have expected both of those events to come through?
No, I wouldn't have. I think if I had voted, I'd be 0 for 2 right now.
You're Senior Vice President of Business Development at AST, and obviously the uncertainty is never good for the secondary patent market. How have these events over the last 6 months impacted business?
Well, probably the biggest thing that has impacted the secondary patent market is really some of the court cases that have affected the ease with which people can invalidate assets. That has had a tremendous downward effect on prices on the secondary patent market. Now, AST is both a buyer and a seller, so when we're buying, the fact that prices are low is a good thing. The fact that our clients have a set of tools that maybe were not available to them at one time is a good thing. When we go to sell those assets back out onto the marketplace after we've licensed our members, the fact that the prices are low is maybe a more challenging thing. So we see it from both sides.
Now, when we look forward to the next 6 months, obviously there are quite a number of other developments set to come into play. What are the key ones that you're watching?
Well, clearly we're watching the change of administration in the U.S., which has a major impact, and where it's going to go, I'm not sure I'm willing to guess at this point. I think all bets are off. But it will be different, there's no doubt about that. Other things that we're watching are the UPC and certainly the recent announcement by the UK to continue to move forward with that. Makes that maybe a more viable option, and so we'll see where it goes in the next 6 months. Also areas like China. I mean, one of the reasons that we're here in China is because this is such a dynamic IP marketplace. And you have, for the first time, a Canadian NPE suing a Japanese operating company in a Chinese court. So that's an interesting one to follow as well. Yes.
Well, let's pick on just two of those. First, the UPC. The fact that the UK, despite the Brexit vote, has I guess ratified or is intending to ratify the UPC, obviously would speak against the whole point of Brexit, which was to take back sovereignty in the birth of the Brexit campaigners. Is that development in and of itself going to impact the prices?
That's an interesting question. One of the things that we see as more and more companies have started looking outside the U.S. for their locations of litigation is that maybe the pricing model is different than it was at one time. At one time, the U.S. assets were what really drove the value of a portfolio on the market. But now that might not be the case so much anymore. So we're starting to see sellers who are valuing their assets outside of the U.S. independently from the assets in the U.S. And that may have, that's probably the biggest impact on it is as litigations grow in jurisdictions outside the U.S., the value shifts among where assets come from.
And when we look at the Trump administration's inauguration, January 20, you've already said that you don't want to hazard a guess about what the impact will be. But could it be that simply the fact that we'll have more certainty, one way or the other, by the Ottawa IPBC in June, that in itself is going to help the market settle?
It's definitely got the potential to. So, right now there's an unknown about really what really is Trump's views on patents. We know that he's got a strong history of branding, and so he understands intellectual property from that standpoint. He's got a very different perspective than his predecessor on technology in general. He has a very different and perhaps more antagonistic relationship with Silicon Valley, so that will be different. So the one thing I'm quite willing to predict is there will be some changes. Not quite sure that I know exactly what all those are, but there will be changes, and we'll be watching it very carefully.
And we will be talking about it, no doubt, at IPBC Global in Ottawa.
Absolutely, I will see you there.
In mid-June. Thank you very much. Linda Biel from AST, and I'm Mark Lowdy here at IPBC Asia 2016 in Shanghai.